back as soon as possible.
Okay, what do you think in terms of time?
I want to say maybe 5 minutes.
Awesome.
Is that okay?
That's great. Yep.
Do you want me to stay on camera or?
Yeah, just have the camera there, and as soon as she can come back, that'd be great.
Okay, perfect. I think she's coming now. So.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to step away.
Thank
I'll
you.
be next to it.
All right. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Are they on? Okay. Oh my goodness. I'm back. What?
Whoa.
Hello?
Is everyone hearing that?
Hearing what?
I can't talk.
Oh, I know what's going on.
Am I unmuted?
Hi, Vickie. No, you're perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. All right, Vickie, good to see you. We're going to just wait just a minute here, and people are going to start coming in, and we can start. You can see us, and you can see me and hear me okay, Vickie?
I see you. We're working a little bit on the audio. So.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Excellent. Now, are you having lunch right now, Vickie? Because in a former world, we actually used to have lunch together. This was our moment to eat and to break bread together.
Well, I'm drinking water, and I have my goldfish right here. So.
Oh, good. All right, lunch of champions. I'm drinking water too. Cheers.
Good.
Cheers. Good to see you. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start, Vickie. It's so nice to see you, and I want to welcome everyone who is joining us on Zoom as well as on YouTube Live to our Explore Lunch series. We host this series hopefully twice a month, and we're really happy to introduce Vickie Kropenske, who's the Executive Director of the Hope Street Margolis Family Center. So Vickie, thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Of course, of course. So the Explore Lunch series is, for us, Vickie, all about engaging in dialogues about the world around us. So it's how we connect with one another. It's talking about trends that we're seeing in our industries. It's talking about social trends, and really looking at how we can, in the built environment, make better places. That's really what the lunch series has been about. This is actually our 11th lunch. So I just want to give a shout to all of our folks that are on Zoom right now. To those folks that are on Zoom, if you have any questions throughout the dialogue today, please use the Q&A panel to ask. And towards the end of the discussion, we will come back to you about halfway through. So we're really excited to engage with all of you and bring you in as if we were sitting in the lounge of our Los Angeles studio, where I wish we were having lunch together right now, Vickie. So one other shout to our Zoom audience. If you can, tell us what you're eating for lunch today. Go ahead and put it in the chat window and let us know. Remember to chat to everyone when you do that. All right, so Vickie, let's start with a really important question. I have understood from my sources that you actually played a game of horse yesterday. So what's that about?
We did. So we have a sports court, and we decided that we'd had enough of this COVID-19, and we made 2 teams. But we didn't play horse, we played pig, because we all decided that we were not skilled enough to actually go through a whole game of horse. So
I love it. Well, what an incredible opportunity to connect with your staff and your partners, right?
Yes, and I want to say that I made it through 2 rounds, so I'm very proud.
Nicely done. So we actually got from our production team, we have an entire Explore Lunch production team of people around the world. It's incredible. And our production team actually came up with this image of your horse match yesterday. And I was a little surprised because you told me there was excessive physical distancing, but this here at the Dallas Cowboys Stadium or another arena. Okay, so maybe on to a more serious topic. I'd love to just get right into it. These lunch hours go so quickly, Vickie. So I would love for you to tell us a little bit about the Hope Street Margolis Family Center and what your history is and some success stories. And I just want to keep this image up because it's such an empowering and thoughtful photograph.
Oh, it's a great photo of our kids. I'm glad you have it. Well, our work here at Hope Street really began in 1992, really within months of the civil unrest. And so it's been almost to this month now, it's been 28 years. But we started initially as a collaborative project between UCLA and California Hospital, and it was really designed to be a very short-term project. I was asked, along with a colleague, to come from UCLA to work on a research demonstration program that would target issues that were related to access to care. And so we started in a single room. We had a telephone and answering machine, and we were serving about 100 families a year. But really because of the need and the support from the community, what started in that very small way, now 28 years later, is a program that serves about 5,000 children and parents.
Amazing.
We have now about 150 staff, and we have many telephones. No answering machines, but many telephones. And over the course of this period, we've been able to build 4 early care and education centers, and we're about to do number 5 with the help of you and your staff.
Yeah, that's the Nest here in
yeah.
Los Angeles, and we were so fortunate, our team, to have been introduced to you by a mutual friend in Marty Borko from ULI, and we had the distinct opportunity to engage with you as part of our social purpose initiative projects on this incredible project, which is a renovation and an expansion to create a full day year-round service offering for 32 kids. And I'm just so thrilled that we're a part of it. A shout out to our team, Ashley, Aram, and Bill Schmaltz, who have just been instrumental in this. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about the project and the process and your challenges and the opportunities.
As you mentioned, the center will serve 32 children. These are very at-risk children. So these are children of homeless families as well as children with special needs. And this comes at a time when obviously the need for early care and education and childcare is even more acute in the community. We are hoping to finish construction in August and be ready to enroll children in September. And we already have obviously a waiting list for the center. The challenges of this, and again, I cannot say how great, we're so grateful really to Aram and Ashley and to you and Bill for the design, because one of the challenges is that our families are living in such small environments with crowded environments. And so we really were trying to develop a space that would be flexible and allow for both indoor and outdoor experiences, and in many ways substitute for the lack of facilities that children have at home. And your team has done an amazing job of really creating an environment that is really a part of the curriculum. So you have helped us through this space develop an innovative early care and education curriculum.
Yeah,
very excited about.
Well, we are too. I mean, it's as wonderful as you feel about it, we do as well. And taking on initiatives like this to work with your team and within our communities to engage with families like this and help support them. What was the biggest challenge that you faced thus far on that project in particular? Just to give our audience a bit of color to sort of what you deal with in terms of putting these things together.
Well, I think the biggest challenge that we faced was we initially thought that we would complete this project in 4 months, and that we would do it with a budget of $600,000. And as it turned out, it's taken us nearly a year, and the budget is about 1.6 million.
I hope that didn't have anything to do with the architecture and design.
It had nothing to do with the architecture and design and everything about our lack of experience with projects like this.
Well, it's a small project, but it was very complicated, right?
Very complicated. So, and I think you see that in the design, that you have taken what is really limited space and made it flexible and able to really accommodate the needs of various children of various ages and of varying abilities. So your team has done an amazing job. I would say the other issues relate really to licensing and how you license a space for multiple age children, including children who have some special needs accommodations, and really the challenge of working with multiple funding sources. So we have federal funding, state funding, and trying to blend those along with licensing has been complicated, but it will be well worth it in a few months.
Yeah, I can't imagine. We'll get back to some of those complexities because I want to kind of drill into some of those, how you balance those things. But I just wanted to say, Vickie, over the last year and a half or so since we have been working together, and I speak on behalf of our team who have engaged with you, you bring such a sense of empowerment to what you do. And it's something we see when we meet with you. It feels as if every time we engage with you, that nothing is impossible. We can achieve anything that we really put our hearts and minds to. And that's extraordinary. And the other sort of word that I've been thinking a lot about when I reached out to you to see if you'd be willing to talk is you bring a sense of grounding. You always kind of bring a sense of grounding to these discussions. So I'm curious if you can talk a little bit about how you found your way into this, because it seems like such a natural fit for you as a human to do what you do and do it so beautifully.
Well, that's kind. I don't know. Maybe I'll just say a little bit about my background. So I grew up on the plains in South Dakota, and my parents were tenant farmers, and so my early years were spent farming, and we had no indoor plumbing. We drew water from the well, and we had a stove in the kitchen. We burned cobs in the kitchen, and that was also that was our heat.
Right.
And so we had, I would say, not so. It was a plain lifestyle, but I think it was enriched in many ways because I think it did teach us, taught me that all things are possible, and that there are many ways to accomplish what you need. And I think also we were blessed really to have an amazing educational system, and that provided opportunities for me and for my family that allowed me to dream and to think of other opportunities. And I think that is really here at Hope Street what we wish for our families and what we try to instill in our families, that all things are possible, and that if you can dream it, then it's possible for you, it's possible for your children. And sort of that tenacity, I think, is something that I see in our staff and in our families. So
That's amazing. Well, I appreciate that. I think we manifest who we are and what we do through our work, and clearly that comes out in everything that you do. So I guess a challenging question is really to consider what does a perfect system look like, Vickie, if we were to position to ensure equity amongst our communities. What does that look like? How do you actually position for that? Or
so
is there a perfect system?
I I don't know that we have an answer for that, but I would say that investing in our little ones probably is a key, and that providing the early years are so important. The early years really set the trajectory for later health, later development, and to the degree that we can support the health, the wellness, the opportunities for children, for pregnant women, and for very young children, that I think is possible to really change opportunity and to change um, uh, uh, to level the playing field in some way. You know, we have in our early care and education centers, we provide food for children, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Right.
And we've been doing some research to look at the growth patterns of children. And children who have been with us since birth and have had solid nutrition are taller, and they have larger head circumferences. And so um, while genetics certainly plays a part in growth, nutrition has a huge impact as well. And so you can see that providing safe environments, good nutrition, strong developmental supports, all really has then an impact on really on the long-term opportunities and the possibilities. And so I think um, equity um, um, starting early really can make a huge difference for children.
That's a profound and really critical and important statement, right? And I think that's what's so exciting about the Nest and the other work you are doing. When we visited the Hope Street Margolis Family Center, it was Bill Schmaltz and myself and Jeff Driesman, a few of our colleagues, and got to tour. It was extraordinary to see the level of depth that your staff was engaging in with your community and with your students there. You're at your center right now, right?
Yes.
Have you been at your center for the last 4 weeks?
Yes.
Okay. And you're in your library right now, I think.
Yes.
We're both in our libraries.
So we've continued, if you're referencing the COVID situation.
Yeah.
So we really began transitioning about a month ago. A lot of our work is done at our centers, but also we do a lot of home visiting. And so we began to curtail some of the home visiting, moving to telecontact with families, telephone contact, and our mental health. We have a mental health clinic also for children, and we're now providing those services through telehealth. We have a psychiatrist who comes in twice a week for some of the more acute children, but most of our work now is done remotely. And then our work also with our child care centers are now closed. We kept them open as long as we could, but eventually there was no work for parents. And so we really morphed now from having a very busy center to having a commissary really on our third floor. So
Right.
we are stocked. I think in the first 2 weeks we delivered about 5,000 diapers and about 40 pallets of milk, because
Wow.
while parents at that point had money, but there was nothing on the shelves. Now, stores are better stocked in these neighborhoods, but the families really are running out of funds. And so what we're moving to now is to providing food for families. And so we have
Mm.
food bags that we've made
Mhm.
for a week for a family of 5. So 100, 100 bags, and at $60 a bag.
Okay.
That,
And
that that's
is
our
all
goal.
of that,
That's our weekly goal.
that's the weekly goal of distribution, right? Is all of that donated from patrons around the city?
So we've been looking for donations, but some of this we have also then used our program funds to purchase. So we have a list, actually, we have a website. So if you go to our website, you can see the list of foods that we're including in our grocery bags.
Oh, good. Okay, we'll certainly point our people to that. So I also want to just remind everyone that if you do have any questions, feel free on Zoom to submit them in the Q&A, and we'll actually kind of engage in that discussion here shortly. So Vickie, I guess I'm curious how, in the complexity of providing care within our communities that you do with our children, our underserved and our underprivileged communities, how do you balance all of the factors that come into play to allow you to have success at what you do? You have to have the vision, you have to have the community behind you, you have to have policy in alignment, and multiple funding sources you talked about for the nest. How do you strike those balances?
Well, I think first of all, I don't. It's not me. It really is a team, and it's a partnership. And I think an important part of an important component of our team is really a partnership with our parents and with our families. Um, I think one of the important aspects of our work is the role that parents play in directing our uh, our our budgeting, our planning. We have a group of elected parents who are involved in interviewing all candidates for employment, and so no one is employed here without first being interviewed and approved by parents.
Amazing.
We spend parents are involved in budgeting, so with this with it was parents really who decided that we would move forward with making the food bags, for example, and what
Right.
should go into the food bags and how we're going to be distributing the food to families. So um, the an important part of our work is really how um, building capacity of parents and families, and I think the the benefits of that are tremendous. And just as a couple of examples, and again related now to COVID, there's a group of parents, mothers really, who have gathered, and they are now doing twice a month food distribution in our local pocket park. So they
Mm-hmm.
found a way, they found someone to donate food, and every 2 weeks now they have an organized food donation. Um, and I think we see the benefits of this also in our students.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and uh, I think I've mentioned this to you before, but last year we hired our first baby.
Yes.
So
Yeah, that's a great story. You got to tell us about that, because these are the
um,
success stories that make it so
mhm.
rich.
So a young woman who was born into the program in 1996 and was a part of our home visiting program, and then our after school program. And then we supported her with some college scholarship. And now we've hired her, and she has her MSW, and she's come back to work with us, working with our foster care program. And we
Amazing.
have actually on staff now, we have 5 or 6 former students who are now college graduates and
Mm-hmm.
are working in various aspects of our work. And so this is sort of part of the capacity building in the community. And ultimately, how you build equity and change. This is part of how you do it.
Right.
It's slowly and it's constant, but it's kind of sort of chipping away at many of these issues. But I think in collaboration with community partners.
Well, it's amazing when you have that that sort of convergence of what you're doing within your community to hear those success stories. I suppose it's not a surprise, and I would expect you will find more hiring of some of your original babies. That almost seems like it should be expected, right? This
Yes.
program continues like this.
And I think I would also say that, and this is a part of then going back to the nest again. Our work is with individual families and with individuals, but it's also about building community and building sort of sustainable communities. And you do that, I think, with by having a hub or having a facility that really can ground a community. And the Margolis Center certainly has been that. And I see the nest as being that now in the community in South LA.
Right.
That our vision is that will be a hub really for the community and for a way of really stabilizing and strengthening the families who live in the neighborhoods, the surrounding neighborhoods.
Yes. Okay, Vickie, I'm going to ask you another question, but before I do, I'd love to bring our staff up on screen. Chriselle and Hannah, if you can help do that, we're going to promote you all in, and then please share your video, and if you wouldn't mind just muting your audio until we call on you for a question and dialogue. But this is going to be a little bit more, Vickie, like we're actually sitting in our LA studio and sharing a conversation, because this is here, as you can see behind me, this is the LA studio, and that's where we were supposed to be, but we're here, which is wonderful. So Vickie, as people are coming in, and we do have a handful of questions that I'd love to engage you on. What after Nest? What comes after that? And I have to say, in all of our conversations, it doesn't seem like what's going on in this crisis has really discouraged you. Talk a little bit about that. I mean, you must have something, but you're so forward about it and so forward thinking. I'm just curious how you're sensing that and experiencing that.
Well, I think in terms of what comes next, one of the things, and this has been certainly informed by COVID, and that is thinking about how do we develop and train others in this kind of work. And I think we see this more acutely now. And how can we and how will we work differently? And because ours is such a relational model.
Right.
And I think the crisis, I mean, in some ways, the crisis of our communities right now is about belonging and about relationships. And COVID has exacerbated that. And so, I don't know, that's what we've been thinking about is how do we adapt to this?
Yeah.
And while at the same time keeping at the forefront what we think are those two really critical needs.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay, so we have a wonderful community here speaking about kind of engaging with one another, and it's nice to see everyone's faces as if we're sitting in our LA lounge at an Explore lunch, and I'm happy to bring Vickie to our lunch today. I want to start with a few questions. The individual that actually introduced us, and he is an alumni of the Explore lunch, Marty Borko. Marty, if you wouldn't mind unmuting, say hello to Vickie, and then please ask your question.
Hi, Vickie. So I'm here with Lilith also. It was so nice to be able to see you. One is I love the Explore series, and as you said, I got a chance to to be on one of them, but I love the idea, and getting to see all of the people I know at Perkins and Will has been great. And it's just a good way to remind us all the other things that are going on in the world. And so always good to see your face, Vickie, and to hear that progress is being made. And so my question is just a broader one for all of us, is in these times and beyond, is what are the best ways to volunteer? What kind of support can we as a community give you in terms of volunteers as people? I know in my past life, we had a lot of the folks from Gensler would come over and help tutor and do other things. But what are the best ways that we as a community can volunteer and support what you're doing?
Well, I think you mentioned the tutoring and the mentoring, and I think that was so crucial in so many ways. And Aram is here somewhere, and Aram has also had a hand in working with some of our high school and middle school age kids. The benefits of not just the actual tutoring, but the benefits of those relationships are incredible. And this is, again, back to David's question about equity. This contributes to kids being able to think about something that's outside of their experience, and it gives them an opportunity to think about a career, even to know that there's a career as an architect or as in design in some way. So volunteering is just your time and your presence means a great deal. We right now, obviously because of COVID, are taking supports with donated items, so financially to help us with our food distribution and some of our material needs. Clothing, children's clothing, for example, is always much needed. And we have a governance group, and we're always looking to expand support for our board. So anyone who might be interested in providing board support, we'd love to invite you. And we're particularly looking at expanding the sort of a junior board, so of a board of young professionals in downtown, and that would be a wonderful way of contributing.
No pressure, Aram. Okay,
And
so
Ashley.
and Ashley, that's right. Okay, so Jorge Mutis has asked a question. I'd love Jorge if you'd unmute and please feel free to engage.
Hi, Vickie.
Hi.
I have a question that has been pondering in my mind very much in the last weeks, and is kind of around understanding that California is such a powerful state. It's the fifth largest economy in the world after Germany. Our GDP is larger than India's, right? And yet we're facing some of the most harsher problems of poverty, inequality, homelessness, you name it. Forget the coronavirus crisis. We already have a humanitarian crisis. It's right outside my window as I look to Skid Row. And there's so many more. So I just have this question, just pondering, and I just share it with as many people as I can, is how do you think, from your perspective, from where you sit every day, that we can leverage our wealth? From your perspective, how could we better leverage all this power and wealth that we have in the state?
Well, we are also struck by and maybe your colleagues have a response. We are struck by to the north, the power of downtown, and then to the south, the poverty. And my part of my response is that it's really your generation. The answers to some of the difficulties now, I think we need to look to your generation for leadership and for involvement. And it's very exciting for me to see the participation, both politically and in other ways, of these last 6 months. Because you're right, it is a crisis. I was late coming to this meeting because we've been delivering milk to families with no food. And I received a call from, and we have a couple of families who are living, they're low income families, but living in upper income buildings. And I had a call from the manager of the building, irate because our staff delivered milk to a door and they weren't wearing gloves. Now, I will tell you that our family is probably one of the only Latino families living in that building. So I understand your question. And I think we have much work to do.
Well, I think you're many years into this, and I think your point that this is a slow process and it starts with the young ones, it starts with the little ones, and it starts with young professionals, and it starts with all of us engaging. Let's see, we had another question from Lee Christie who had to drop off, so I'll field it, and then anyone else who would like to ask a question, either just type it in that you want to ask or raise your hand. Question from Lee, Vickie, is, are there programs like food bags or operations like telemedicine that have arisen during this difficult time that have been a benefit in some way, and you'll be looking to continue, you would actually continue those programs when your operations go back into full swing? It's an interesting question, right? We're learning about all sorts of new methodologies of engagement. Will you apply any of those to the future Hope Street operations?
No, I think absolutely. I think this, we need to use this as a time for learning and for really rethinking what other possibilities, what possibilities this might be for us. And certainly telehealth is one of those. So it's very clear that there can be many benefits, and probably again, one of the clear benefits is eliminating some of the issues related to access to care that really does impact, that these issues that do impact many of our families. So, I think, yes, that this is really a learning opportunity, and also to heighten where there is potentially more work to do. So
Right.
one of the things that we're gathering information now about which of our families have computers, for example, which of our children have computers, and what is the technology like, and then to think about, well, what steps we might be able to take to really support families in different ways around technology and lack of access to technology. So, no, I think there are many learnings.
I think there are too. It'll be really interesting to see what we take from today and how we apply that in the future. Some things might get diluted, some things might evolve even further, but certainly the use of technology has been a fascinating experiment over the last month for so many. Who else has a question? Anyone else want to raise their hand or unmute and ask? There's Ashley. Oh, we can't hear you. You might, why don't you type it in, and then I will ask the question and you can like lip sync along with me. She's down on that. Okay, while she's typing, anyone, oh, here she goes. All right, so Vickie, the question from Ash is, how does investing in the health of the most vulnerable in our society help the society and community as a whole? What are the benefits from not only a public health perspective, but also a society as a whole?
Great question, Ashley. I think maybe just very broadly, we've had such an isolationist approach, and we have thought that, I think, closing borders and creating defined communities might protect us and might protect society in some ways. And I think this is, COVID has made us realize that really we are all one global community. And long-term investing in children has many benefits, I think, including really supporting the long-term health of families. So not just the children, but their families. And you see that improving child health really has a long-term impact on the stability of families and, parents' abilities then really to manage and care for their children.
I love that. Thank you, Vickie. Ashley, I'm sorry that we can't get your audio working. You can ask again. Does anyone else have a question for Vickie or want to contribute to a dialogue? Oh, Aram, go ahead, unmute, please. There you go.
Hi, Vickie. Hi, hope you're doing well. This
Hey,
is
Aram.
Aram. I just want to say, I think thank you first for, I think, all the work you do. It's always very inspiring, and we always, I think, feel very re-energized and re-engaged when we meet with you and hear about the progress in the program. And I'm wondering if maybe you could talk about that sort of the long game, because it seems like this theme of building capacity and sort of incremental change, right? And I think, to Jorge's point earlier, I think a lot of these issues kind of demand action now, right? And so how do we build that kind of long game perspective of staying engaged? How have you sort of kept engaged in the work you do and sort of taking the long vision of progress and change?
Well, I don't know. I guess I'm inspired by our families and by our children. And, when you hear the stories of our parents and what they have experienced, and then you see their faithfulness and their continued humility and gratitude, for me, that's very inspiring. And that's really the long game. The difficulties that we're having now with COVID really is nothing compared to what many of our parents have endured. The sacrifices that they've made for their children, that they continue to make for their children. And so for me, this is the inspiration and also the possibilities. And I think again, I have to credit your design of the nest, and I think you understand that. That's where the vision of the environment, that's where your design came from. I think you have I think you and Ashley have really a deep appreciation for the needs of children and kind of what's important to their health. So thank you.
Well, I hate to be the guy that has to speak now, because that was really well said, beautifully said. So unless anyone has any other questions, what I'd like to do is just point all of you to the Hope Street Margolis Family Center website, where you can engage, you can volunteer, you can donate time, you can donate money. There are many ways to give. We will also post this as part of our site, and Vickie, hope that that this helps stimulate some of the efforts you're doing. On behalf of all of us, I just want to thank you for taking the time. I know you literally were rushing into this call because of engaging with your families and helping serve them with needed food. And so for you to take 45 minutes to engage with us means everything to us. We can't wait to continue working with you and to feel empowered by you as always. And we're really grateful for everything you do in our community. So thank you so much. And to all the rest of you, we'll see you for the next Explore lunch. Thank you,
Thanks so
Vickie.
much. Thank you. Be well.
Thank you. You as well. Thanks everyone so much for joining, and we'll see you back in our studio for the next one. So long.
Bye.
Bye-bye.